Today's number 21 most urgent vulnerability is CVE-2026-78211, a critical issue in Formosan GCB Doctor. And the reason it earns a spot on the Daily Ranked CVE Brief is simple. This is not a minor data leak or a local-only bug. The official description says unauthenticated remote attackers can inject malicious commands through an unremoved ADOdb test page parameter, which can lead to arbitrary system command execution on the server. In plain English, if a vulnerable deployment is reachable, an outsider may be able to make the server run operating system commands. This is exactly the kind of flaw security teams triage early, because the impact can jump from application compromise to server-level control. Our promise here is what to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal, CISA KEV, first EPSS, and CVSS. CVE-2026-78211 affects Formosan GCB Doctor, developed by Formosan Security Technology. The weakness is classified as CWE-78 OS command injection. That means the application takes some form of input and handles it in a way that can influence commands executed by the underlying operating system. The official NVD description is specific about the entry point, an unremoved ADOdb test page parameter. Test pages are often meant for development, diagnostics, or setup workflows, not for exposed production use. When something like that remains accessible and accepts input unsafely, it can become a bridge between a web request and the operating system underneath. For defenders, the key takeaway is not the internal code path. It is that a web-facing component may allow command execution without the attacker first logging in. Score verdict. This is a critical, act now class vulnerability because it combines remote reachability with no authentication. The CVSS vector starts with network attack vector and low attack complexity, which means the vulnerable condition is exposed over a network and does not require unusual preconditions. Even more important, privileges required is none, and user interaction is none. So the scoring model is saying an attacker does not need an account, and does not need to trick an administrator or user into clicking anything. The impact ratings are high for confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which fits the nature of OS command injection. Successful abuse may expose data, alter systems, or disrupt service. We do not need to recite every metric to understand the risk. The dangerous combination is remote, unauthenticated, and server command impact. CISCAV status is false, meaning this CVE is not listed in the known exploited vulnerabilities catalog at the time of this brief. That is important context. We are not claiming confirmed exploitation from KEV. But not being in KEV is not the same as being safe. The EPSS percentile provided is 0.73064, which places it above many vulnerabilities in relative exploitation likelihood ranking. Combine that with a 9.8 CVSS score, no required authentication, and potential arbitrary system commands, and this becomes a high-priority exposure question. The real-world danger is especially serious for any internet-accessible instance. If the affected page is reachable from untrusted networks, defenders should assume the window for safe delay is narrow, even without a KEV listing. Conceptually, the attack path is straightforward, which is why the CVSS complexity is low. An attacker looks for a reachable Formosan GCB Doctor deployment where the relevant ADOdb test page has not been removed or blocked. The risky condition described by NVD is a parameter on that page that is not handled safely. Instead of treating input as data only, the application behavior can allow that input to influence operating system command execution. We are not going to show payloads, paths, or exploitation steps. From a defensive point of view, what matters is the boundary crossing. A web layer request reaches a server layer command context. Any system where diagnostic or test functionality is exposed to untrusted users deserves immediate review, because these pages often bypass the assumptions that protect normal application routes. To check exposure, start with asset inventory. Identify whether your organization runs Formosan GCB Doctor anywhere, including internal servers, hosted environments, disaster recovery systems, and older deployments that may not be in the main inventory. Then compare your installed deployment against the official advisory from the vendor or coordinating authority for exact affected versions and remediation guidance. Do not guess version status from memory, and do not rely only on whether the system is behind a login page. The CVSS vector says no privileges are required, so focus on what unauthenticated users can reach. Administrators should verify that ADOdb test pages or other development-style pages are not present in production web routes and are not reachable from the internet or broad internal networks. If you cannot confirm, treat the system as potentially exposed. The first remediation step is to follow the official advisory guidance for CVE 2026-78211 and apply the available fix or configuration change specified there. Because we were not provided exact version numbers or patch names, the safest instruction is to verify directly against the official source for your environment. While patching is underway, reduce exposure. Remove or block unnecessary ADOdb test pages and any development or diagnostic pages that should not exist in production. Restrict access to the application using network controls, allow lists, VPN requirements, or segmentation where appropriate. Make sure the web application process runs with the least privileges needed, because command injection impact is worse when the service account has broad rights. If logs suggest suspicious access, do not just patch and move on. Preserve evidence, review system integrity, and consider credential rotation for secrets accessible from the server. For detection, start with web access logs. Look for requests targeting ADOdb test pages or similar diagnostic pages, especially from unfamiliar source addresses, unusual user agents, or repeated probing patterns. Then look at parameters. You do not need to publish or share exploit strings to detect abnormal behavior. Focus on requests that contain unusually long values, encoded characters, shell-like metacharacter patterns, or repeated failures around the same endpoint. On the host, watch for behavior that should not be normal for this application. The web service launching operating system utilities, unexpected child processes, changes to files outside expected application directories, or sudden configuration modifications. Network monitoring can add another layer. A server that normally only receives application traffic should not suddenly initiate unusual outbound connections or data transfers. Baseline normal behavior first, then alert on deviations. Bottom line, CVE 2026-7811 is a critical OS command injection vulnerability in Formosan GCB Doctor. It is today's number 21 on our ranked list because the technical profile is severe, network reachable, low complexity, no authentication, no user interaction, and high impact across confidentiality, integrity, and availability. It is not currently listed in CISA KEV, so we are not calling it confirmed known exploitation from that catalog. But the combination of 9.8 CVSS severity and an elevated EPSS percentile means defenders should not let it sit in the backlog, especially if the application is reachable from untrusted networks. Patch according to the official advisory, remove exposed test pages, tighten access, and review logs for signs of probing or compromise. This is the Daily Ranked CVE Brief, what to patch first, ranked by real exploitation signal. Subscribe for tomorrow's ranked brief, and the full ranked report is linked in the description.